Hey everybody, it's Aditya Foldiore here with your Week 11 must starts. Stay tuned to find out why the Tennessee Titans offense is a sneaky good play this week, especially for two players that I'm about to list off. So first up on the Week 11 must starts at quarterback is the Green Bay Packers' Jordan Love. Love has been a fun-ish start debate this season. He's been averaging 17.8 fantasy points per game, which ranks 15th amongst fantasy quarterbacks, which is right on that high-end QB2 production value range. He has two top 10 finishes under his belt this season and one game under 13 fantasy points. He's been in a young fantasy offense, and he's been a serviceable quarterback too this season for super flex leagues or as a streaming option coming off of benches in one quarterback leagues. So for week 11, he faces a weak Chargers defense that is allowing over 300 passing yards per game. Chargers cannot get a stop and have given up 14 passing touchdowns to just 6 interceptions this season. The Packers offense is not high powered by any way, but it does have a few weapons for Jordan Love to utilize. Christian Watson in his second year, Aaron Jones, the veteran, Jaden Reed, the rookie, Luke Musgrave, another rookie. Those guys will be enough for Jordan Love to utilize against a weak Chargers defense. So fire up Jordan Love this week. Next up, the first player from the Titans offense that I'm going to talk about is running back Tyjae Spears. He has 4 games of 4 receptions this season, getting a 50.9% snap share, which ranks 30th amongst running backs. His 13.3% target share has propelled his fantasy value to flex upside levels. And for week 11, he faces off against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are allowing the 7th most receiving fantasy points to opposing running backs this season. They have given up at least 8 receptions to opposing backs in 4 straight games, and Spears has caught 11 passes in 3 Will Levis starts. He's operated as a good outlet back for the rookie, and now he faces a defense that is susceptible to receiving backs. So Spears is a good start for this week. Next up at wide receiver is Terry McLaurin from the Washington Commanders. A low-hanging fruit facing the New York Giants, but sometimes that's the easiest to pick. The Commanders' offense has not been great for Terry McLaurin or Jahan Dotson, the wide receivers, despite some great fantasy play from quarterback Sam Howell. McLaurin has sort of been pushed out of that weekly start range and is now a guy that's likely sitting on your bench. Maybe you rotate him into your flex depending on the matchup. And this is a matchup where you want to play Terry McLaurin. In a brutal drubbing by the Dallas Cowboys, the Giants gave up 435 yards to wide receivers last week. And this week, it's Terry McLaurin's chance to go up against the porous Giants secondary. McLaurin has 100% route participation this season, running as the Commanders' #1 receiver, and he's been just outside the top 24 wide receivers. So it's a bit disappointing giving it his ADP. However, he's had his fair share of good fantasy games, including 15 fantasy points against the last time the Commanders played the Giants in Week 7. Good for a top 20 finish that week. The Giants' defense is susceptible to big games given up to wide receivers, and Terry McLaurin, being the Commanders' #1, is in line for a big game. Start him up this week. Lastly, the second player from the Titans that I'm going to talk about is Chig Okino, the tight end. The second Titan appearing on the list is because he's in a good spot against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jaguars have allowed 3 games of at least 7 receptions to opposing tight ends, in addition to 2 games of over 100 yards receiving. They've given up the 5th most receiving fantasy points to opponents this season and the 10th most to just tight ends. This week, managers of Kyle Pitts, Taysom Hill, and even Jonnu Smith will be looking for streaming options. Okino has struggled to produce for fantasy this season, with 8.3 fantasy points being his season best. However, he has a 2.2-yard target separation, which ranks 8th amongst tight ends. It shows it can get open over the middle of the field. With Will Levis at quarterback the last 3 games, he's seen 16 targets, which means he's still getting utility. He just hasn't been getting the yards and touchdown opportunities to be fantasy relevant quite yet. However, this week, against a weaker Jacksonville defense that's allowing shallow receptions to outlet running backs like Tyjae Spears and tight ends like Chig Okino over the middle of the field, Okino is a good start for the week. And that's all for this week 11 must starts. Good luck setting those fantasy lineups, and hope you can make it through the buys. We're almost to the fantasy playoffs. Good luck.